People aren't listening to your important message. Why? Because you haven't been helping them listen. Today, I'm going to teach you how to help your audience listen. How? By identifying 5 conscious acts of listening and giving you practical ways to use these principles to craft a better message. Hey, welcome back. I'm Nate, and thanks for hanging out today as we talk about how to craft a message that's easier to listen to. And I got this wrong as a communicator for years. I'd be speaking and I'd look out and I'd see way too many people that had this glassy-eyed look on their face, the sure telltale sign that they weren't actually listening. I didn't know how to help them listen. So fast forward years later, I now know how to help an audience listen. And today I want to help you deliver your important message. Why is listening important? Well, we're all exposed to thousands of messages daily. Listening has never been harder, and keeping the attention of an audience has never been harder. But why is this important? It's important because your message is important. Part of becoming a great communicator is learning how to get this right. And to be an effective speaker, we need to understand how to help an audience listen effectively. So what's the difference between hearing and listening? Well, hearing is the physiological passive process of perceiving sound. That's kind of a mouthful, isn't it? In other words, hearing is akin to breathing. It's like breathing. Your body just does it. You don't have to wake up in the morning and say, I think I should start breathing now. No. You don't have to wake up in the morning and say, I think I should start hearing now either. It's a passive process that your body just does. Okay? So then what's listening? What's the difference? Well, listening isn't passive. Listening is a conscious action. It's a conscious act. We have to choose to listen. You don't listen by accident. And so by understanding how it works, we gain an understanding of how to help our audience. How to help them what? How to help them choose to listen. And so there's 5 conscious acts of listening. And each of these interactions can either help or hurt listening. So we want to be the kind of speaker who helps our audience understand. Why? Because we want to add value to their life with our important message. All right, so let's get into these 5 things. The first one, the first conscious act of listening is reception. The listener has to choose to actually receive what is being communicated. So as a listener, you're a gatekeeper. You're deciding what gets in. As a communicator, we want to tailor our message so that it's easily to be received by our audience. In other words, we want to craft a message that's easy to let in. Well, how? Well, you have to acknowledge that there's barriers that exist between your message and your audience. And the better you do at addressing those barriers, the greater the potential for helping your audience receive your important message. I discussed these barriers and how to overcome them in another video that's linked in the description below. But part of nailing the reception is being convincing. You got to be convincing. To get your audience to eliminate barriers and to receive your message, you have to convince them that they actually need it. If they don't believe you have something helpful, they will turn you off and tune you out. In fact, you get about 10 seconds to pull this off. Attention spans are short. Man, their phone has already buzzed at least twice since you started. There's another cat video that's waiting. It's just one click away. You can't get this wrong. So how can we be convincing? How can we help our audience receive our message? Well, we have to maybe unlearn some things. We got to forget the classic approach to this, first of all. You got to start strong. So we need to forget this classic intro. And if a previous communications class taught you that, then it's time to trash it. It's going to hold you back. And the truth is, academia stinks at this. In the real world, people just want to know that you have something to say that will help them in their everyday life, whether it's in their business or their family or their job or whatever it might be. They just want to know that what you have to say matters, and then it's going to help them. And you've got to convince them of that. So the fastest way to get ignored is by walking through the classic communication introduction, which would tell you to do this. Greet the audience, and then thank the audience, and then honor that invitation that you received to speak there, and talk about why you're there, and then establish your own credibility and deliver a thesis statement. That's the classic introduction. You keep doing that, and you're going to keep failing to help your audience listen. That's how you get ignored within the first 30 seconds. In fact, the classic intro guarantees that you're going to be ignored by most audiences, and it goes something like this. Hi, I'm Nate, and I'm so glad to be with you. I want to thank you today for coming, and I'd also like to thank this great organization for giving me the opportunity to sound smart in front of you. Today we're going to talk about something someone more important than you decided was important. And they asked me to talk about it because I think it's important too, and I have 14 degrees verifying both the importance of the topic and my own importance. And so this important thing can be addressed by acknowledging 3 complicated theories, but we're going to ignore any practical application today. Obviously, I'm being ridiculous and sarcastic, but the principle is true. The classic intro fails inevitably because it's about the speaker. And it's about the occasion. But good communication is an act of service. You got to get your ego out of the way and make what you have to say all about helping the audience. And they will want to listen when you get that right. So you start by saying something they want to receive. For example, hi, I'm Nate, and today I want to help you stop being ignored. That's much stronger. This is the most important subtle pivot you'll ever make in the way you introduce a talk. You guide your audience through the act of receiving your important message by highlighting a need. Your talk, it has to solve a problem, and you have to identify it for your audience clearly and quickly. And then you have to keep doing it all throughout your talk. So the first conscious act of listening is to be convincing, to help your audience receive your message. The second conscious act of listening is understanding, helping your audience understand your important message. You want them to consciously work to comprehend your message. In fact, the audience, they just need to be able to grasp your message easily and quickly. Receiving it is pointless if they don't understand it. So how do we do this? Well, like you'll hear often throughout this talk, we keep it as simple as possible. Don't overcomplicate it in an effort to sound intelligent. We deliver the information in a simple and concise way. In other words, only provide the details essential for understanding. Your audience, they may not care about some obscure fact as much as you do. If it's not essential for understanding, cut it. Throw it out of there. Every great talk has to have a strong through line. I've talked about that in another video. The through line, your through line in your talk, it's the controlling idea that filters what does and does not belong in your important message. The third conscious act of listening is intent. Your intent. What is your intended message? Is what your audience perceiving what you actually intended for them to get? We have to craft a message that's received, that's convincing, that's understood, and that's interpreted based on a purposefully and carefully chosen intention. This is where the purpose of your specific message becomes so important. Knowing why you're saying what you're saying, and knowing how you're going to say it, and then delivering your important message with extreme clarity. Speakers who want to sound smart usually aren't that clear. They're complicated. If you want to make your audience get it, if you want to help them get it and respond accordingly, make it clear. For example, I want to help you help your audience listen well. That is a statement of clear intention. Do this to make your message clear, and you'll intentionally deliver your important message. Use short sentences. Our brains like easy. Long sentences require extra energy to understand. So keep it easy for your audience. Keep it short. Use simple language. Choose words that are familiar. If a word has more than 3 syllables, check your thesaurus. There's probably a better word. If there isn't, then that word is likely jargon and you may not need it. Which brings us to the next one. Eliminate jargon. Jargon is discipline-specific terminology that gets in the way of what you're trying to say. Also, avoid idioms. Idioms are cultural phrases or slang or cute sayings that just confuse the audience. And finally, you make it actionable. State things in a way that an audience can act on whenever possible. The fourth conscious act of listening is measure value. Your audience will measure the value of your message. That's evaluation. They're deciding, was this a message worth listening to? And even if your audience listens and understands the intent of your message, they still have to decide if the effort was in fact worth it. And when your audience is evaluating your message, they're consciously answering this question. Did this message add value to my life? To help your audience with this fourth process, you ace it in the writing room. You carefully craft a message that adds value. You deliver it clearly, confidently, and enthusiastically. And you do it from a posture of service rather than authority. Most audiences don't like to be merely told what to do. They love someone who'll show them how to win at something. So if you deliver on something of value, they keep coming back for more. And then the fifth and final conscious act of listening today is action. Every great talk demands a great response. What's the action step? Give them something to do worth doing. In fact, if we aren't delivering something actionable, we're wasting everyone's time. If you finish speaking and no one wants to do anything with what you just said, you didn't really help them listen. You didn't deliver anything of value. And your call to action is where you take the purpose of your message and you turn it into something they have to act on. You ask yourself this question: is it filmable? And then you try to create one simple action step somebody could actually capture with a camera. So those are the 5 conscious acts of listening. Let's recap really quickly. Hearing is passive. Listening is a conscious action. Audiences struggle to pay attention if we don't help engage them in these 5 acts of conscious listening. But what's at stake? Well, a better life for your audience because your message is important. So how do we help them listen? Well, we help the audience receive the message by being convincing. We help the audience understand the message by being clear and concise. We help the audience know our intent by stating it plainly. And we help the audience discover value in the message by delivering a need. And then we help the audience improve their life by getting them to take one simple action. When you do this, you won't be ignored anymore. People will sit up and listen. Thanks for watching today.